welcome to Conversations with the Artist. I'm thrilled to be joined by Trish Adlesic and Sheila Nevin. Um, you know and love the films that Sheila has been part of for many, many years. Many of them so influential. To mention just one, How to Die in Oregon, which still stays with me and made such an impact across the country. But the short documentary we're here to talk about today is the ABCs of book banning, and it's Sheila's directorial debut. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. We're
Thank
happy to
you
be there.
So you took a very interesting vantage point for this documentary. Sheila, tell us a little bit about why you did it through this lens.
Well, we felt, I think everything is a team play, but I think we felt, certainly I felt very strongly that the other side had been presented. After all, the books had been taken off the shelves. So consequently, who was the victim? I tend to prefer the victims to the, perpetrators. And the victims at the earliest and at the beginning were really the children. And I felt we should hear from them. And we should start with the youngest of books that had been banned, the youngest age group, and then work our way up in an elementary school to basically adult teens, 16 and 17-year-olds. And so the film graduates, for want of a better word, from kindergarten, pretty much, all the way up to 16, which would be when you would leave elementary school and probably move into high school. So we really wanted to take the youngest victims because that was where the fire starts. We start small. So we started small, and then we left you with some very classic books that were no longer on shelves. And we wanted it to resonate as, well, I read that. Oh, what's wrong with that? Or, so it was a very conscious effort to focus on one group. And that's how we did it. That's how we started to begin with.
There was a group of young people, probably 10 years old, who were all passionate readers. You could just tell by how they were talking about their love of books and the fact that they were reading at an advanced grade level. But some of the books they were given access to were at a reading level much below their own age, let alone their reading ability. Did you find that there were more impassioned children because of the restrictions, the challenges, and the banning?
Well, I mean, we certainly, didn't do 100,000 children. We certainly picked kids who were impacted by it. We gave them the books to read, and we asked them what they thought about the fact that these books had been pulled from the shelves. Some of them knew the books, and some had not yet read the books. So it was kind of a potpourri. But like with any documentary, not everybody you read becomes part of your story. And the kids who were most vocal were the kids that could express in the best way possible what they felt was their deprivation in terms of reading. I mean, is that a fair way to present it, Trish? I think pretty much.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what was so relieving and encouraging was the fact that the kids that we met from Florida to New York really had incredible insight, profound insight on what's happening around them. And even some of them spoke about the fact that the books that were being banned intimidated them, made them think they should be afraid of these books in some way. But also they were outraged at the same time and they didn't want their librarian school classroom shelves purged of the truth. They didn't understand really why, as you see the young girl, Yay, saying, why would you ban Rosa Parks' book? So I think I certainly echo what Sheila is saying, that they are our future, and for them to be penalized in this way sends such a wrong message about the world they live in.
Yeah. It was horrifying to see some of the titles that were coming across the screen. And you were able to get in touch with some of the authors who have their books banned, challenged, and restricted, and also do a beautiful job of clarifying what those terms mean. You had an author who almost wore it as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, they banned my book. Yeah. And I'm going to keep creating books that they will keep continuing to try and ban, but the truth has to be put down and has to be shared and has to be spoken. Did you find any authors who um, didn't have that drive now that they knew that their books were being restricted, banned, or
No, to ban a creative person's work, whether it's dance or music or art or literature, the very fact that they're a creative person means they have fire in their belly, and therefore they're ready to fight back because they are their creative selves. And you take away their creativity, you take away their heart, and you can't go too far without a heart. At least maybe in The Wizard of Oz, but other than that.
The author you were referring to, her name is Maya Kobab, and it's Genderqueer is her book, and it's the most banned book in America, and she isn't backing down. And frankly, the incredible value of that book is to help children if they're struggling with their identities, and they read a book like that. You know, I have a brother who was suicidal when he realized he was gay. And if we didn't have loving progressive parents that understood it was just a preference, I'm not sure he'd be alive today. And so having access to these books really helps children, but also, you know, and Tango Makes Three, the book about the penguins, those authors, Justin Richardson and Peter Parnell, they're in a lawsuit right now with Escambia County in Florida suing, you know, and really seeking the First Amendment protection as it should be. And the other author that's in the film, Nikki Giovanni, who I grew up reading her poetry, she couldn't wait to be banned. She thought she was doing something wrong because she wasn't being banned. As tragic as banning is, like Sheila said, they have a fire in their belly. Creative people don't want to be suppressed. And of course, we absolutely advocate for age-appropriate reading on every level.
right. So there is a lot of youth-oriented point of view, but you start the movie and you end the movie with an activist who was so impassioned and who proves what we talk about here at the retirement community, that creativity is ageless and age does not matter. You can have an impact at any point in your life. Can you tell?
Not just, you're talking about Grace Lynn,
Yeah.
our 101-year-old hero. I think Grace teaches you a number of lessons. One is that activism is not age appropriate. You can be an activist that, you know, not liking your particular pacifier or not whatever, and you can be an activist not particularly liking the world that you live in. And I think you know, age is irrelevant here because you have 6-year-olds and you have a now 101-year-old, and they're speaking the same language. Maybe different choice of words, but nonetheless, they're together in this. I've always wanted to put Grace together with you know, with Ridley, the little African-American boy who speaks so eloquently, you know, about why he has to read these books. I think they would have great dinner conversation, the two of them. They would not be at a loss for words.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
Certainly not. So what impact has Grace had? Not just the fact that it seems to me she was the inspiration for the documentary. Right, her testimony came first. Is that correct?
I actually saw her on, I think it was a TikTok clip. I saw this 100-year-old woman talking to the Marin County School Board in Florida, and she lit a fire for me. And I called up Trish and I said, Trish, we've got to do this. We've got to, you know, we've got to grab Grace. And so the next day, I think it was the next day, Trish. It was the day after the next day.
It was the next day. I mean, Sheila
Next
called me
day.
on a Friday afternoon and shared with me the link to Grace, and I immediately fell in love with her activism and her courage. And I flew to Florida the next day, and we hit it off, and we really felt great. And it wound up being that her own daughter went to my high school, so we had a lot more in common. So it was really a treat to do the project with Sheila. It was an incredible honor to stand with her in this really urgent matter of book banning. So, but to further answer, Grace's testimony and her statements before school went viral. So it went to several million people, and it has created a movement, certainly in Florida and other states. She's sort of being a hero model for this fight. And I think the juxtaposition with the kids and Grace is really fascinating in the film, to have her, and that was what Sheila, as a director, so brilliantly, thoughtfully, really wanted to orchestrate in this piece. So, in fact, I'm bringing Grace into the Oscar luncheon, and we're going to be handing out banned books. My suitcase was so heavy. I had like 40 banned books in it, and she has a walker. We're going to be putting them on the little bench and in her little pouch and handing them out to all the Oscar nominees. So she's
We had a screening at the 42nd Street Library, the great library in New York City. And Grace came to that screening. And at the end, this beautiful drag queen who wrote the book that is being read at the
Swish,
end.
swish.
Yes.
Swish, yeah, thump, thump, swish, swish. And read her book and then asked the audience to, and I kept thinking, what's Grace going to do? Because I understood everyone on the panel was young enough to get up and stomp their feet. And I thought, Grace has a walker, and, what's she going to do? Grace got up, pushed the walker out of the way, and thumped her feet up and down with the drag queen. And, you're never too old or too young to fight back against a wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit of, good docus and good literature and good everything, good life.
Yeah.
Which becomes political. It's a very political film without appearing to be so, not just out of the mouths of babes. It's more than that. It's the future of America in those children. And if they're deprived of the difference of various parts of this once great nation, I think they can't grow up to keep it a democracy. And so it is critical that these children have access to books about race and difference and sexual preference. It's critical that they know the world is diverse. And it's more than just a sweet little film about little children who can't read books. And a lot of these kids live in communities where they don't have the kind of parents that can, go on Amazon, buy a book, you go to private school, there's a lot of America where kids are going to bed hungry now. 1 in 4 children are somewhat food deprived when they go to bed. So, these kids need these books, and libraries and public schools are the place where these books belong and need to be and have to be. And it's up to us to make sure these books are there and that these shelves are full. So I think you have to rally out of that residence and go march on the local.
Fortunately, my hope is we're not in a knowledge desert here in California.
Good.
At least in this
Good and bad, good and bad.
Yeah.
Those of us on the East Coast and the West Coast are somewhat privileged in our buying power. And that decreases, in a sense, our sense of the deprivation of the middle and many places in the country.
Right. But that's what I mean in terms of libraries here, even if because there are certainly people that are struggling financially on both coasts as well as throughout the country. But
right.
here the libraries don't deprive you of access to any kind of knowledge. And that should be criminal. I mean, that's basically what Grace was saying. My husband died to fight for liberty and freedom of expression, freedom of speech. That's paramount. That's first. And to have that denied by these districts, and I know you're saying out of the mouths of babes, but it is important that it is from the kids' perspectives that you're hearing and understanding what they're being deprived of is about LGBTQ issues. It is about social justice and about racial issues. And it's the Diary of Anne Frank ban, like,
Novel, yes.
right? And you give examples of passages from some of the books that are banned. And it's also clear that there is a religious right aspect, I think, to much of this banning as well.
I mean, there's one God, and there's one religion. It's a Christian white God, and everything. There can be no magic. Magic does not belong to a tree or to a witch. It belongs to God. Everything belongs to that one God. And anything that's divergent from that, that's the right word, is to be banned, is to be removed. And the child is to be deprived of it. I don't know how that comes to pass. I don't understand it, but look at our country. Look where we're going.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But look, country divided. There's a lot of power behind those people that take those books off the shelves. It's not just some little, group of people who tiptoe in. They march in and they take those books away. So it's a very critical issue.
Right.
Kind of war.
And just to echo Sheila, I just for Grace, this is very personal because her husband was killed by the Nazis fighting for freedom, and she knows what it means, what book banning and book burning leads to. And I think that's really crucial. I also want to add the fact that there in several states, it's a felony to have these banned books. Teachers are very intimidated, and librarians, it's a felony in a number of states. In particular, Tennessee is the most strict state. It's a felony for the teacher. It's a felony for the bookseller. It's a felony for the librarian. And if a kid comes to your house and happens to see a banned book in your house and tells their parent, that's also a risk for a felony. So there's a lot of intimidation going on behind this. When Sheila talks about it being a political film, it's very much a political film. And it's not only red states and southern states. Recently in mid-December in Lenox, Massachusetts, and Great Barrington specifically, a police officer went into a middle school looking for genderqueer, the Maya Kobab book that we were referencing earlier, and that teacher is taken a permanent leave of absence as a result. So this is something that, as we approach 6,000 books being banned in America in 41 states, it is quite concerning. It's not just about not reading books. It's a really the political underbelly of suppression and hate. And that's what ultimately book banning leads to.
Yeah, control.
Make clear that it's not banned in 40 states. It's banned in school districts within those states. So a lot of those states are at war within themselves. When I learned the word purple states, they're red and blue, and that within the state itself, there's fighting and friction between two groups: those who pull the books off and those who put the books back on again. So that's complicated universe. This United States of America.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how united it is.
So this is too complicated a question for a simple answer, no doubt, but is it just the school districts? Where in the majority do these bannings stem from?
Go ahead, you do this best.
They're in school districts, but there are some at the state level that are being banned throughout all school districts in the state. PEN America does a brilliant job. You can look at their website. They really calculate and outline specifically where each state is on the issue. So we look to people working in the trenches, the American Library Association, the National Coalition Against Censorship, the ACLU. They're tracking this very carefully and helping us with the technical data so that we can be accurate. But they're hiring, they're supposed to be hiring independent contractors to evaluate once a parent raises a question to take it off the shelf. But it is largely the school districts, but it is happening at the state level as well in some of the states.
So to get my mind around it, often this generates from a parent challenging a book?
Yes. And there's a group called, Moms of Liberty. There are chapters in every single state, and they're very active in elevating and supporting the book banning concerns. They often say that it's coming from a place of sexually inappropriate content, but when we look at what the books that are banned are comprised of, there's very few that meet that equation. So they're using that as a way to intimidate and to diminish and denigrate the books and pull them out of circulation for other reasons. When you look at what they're comprised of, it's Black history, it's women's rights, it's LGBTQ plus, it's the Holocaust, it's many different kinds of issues that we're seeing when we really analyze what the stories are really about.
That's horrifying. It's horrifying. What do we do? I mean, I'm not a parent.
I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think you do?
I want to write to my representatives and say, no book gets to be banned. If there is challenge or restriction and a parent wants to monitor what content their child is reading, that's okay. That needs to come to a really strict and stringent set of criteria, because age appropriate, certainly. I don't know anyone who would be like, oh yeah, it's free reign, whatever kids want to read. But never to ban the access to knowledge.
Yeah. Well, you're on our team. You're on our team.
100%. 100%. And is that the thing to do? Like, contact the ACLU and say,
I think Americans know how to fight back. We vote. I think you vote very, very carefully, and you vote. You make sure you vote. However along the line you vote.
But that means that we also need to be more educated as to who's on the school boards, and take
I think it also is on the national level as well. You have to be very careful.
Certainly, but I think locally people kind of dismiss those local elections and focus on the national. And really what you're saying is, this is district by district. This is school board by school board. You have to care about, even if you don't have children. Children, as we've heard so many times, are the future. So we should be caretakers for their access to knowledge.
And there are groups, as Trish mentioned, like the ACLU, the American Library Association. These are all pretty much not-for-profit groups that need support and need allies within small communities. And that's where you start, because at least it's a group of you.
Yeah.
Look at the group on January 6th. It's a group. Well, every individual is part of a group if they choose to be. So just find your group and march with them.
I will march beside either of you at any time.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll spread the word about the film and have people, really get involved. I think it's, just get involved, pay attention to what's happening in your community, support the organizations in the trenches fighting, support authors, donate banned books to communities that don't have them. There's a number of things you can do. And we just have to stay attentive to it. And, as filmmakers, we use the medium to do this. And we, having this remarkable platform with the Academy, we're so grateful we were nominated. It really spreads the word in a really extraordinary way. So for that, we are really so thankful to have the support.
I'm grateful for you guys taking this issue and pushing it into people's consciousness. This is something I know people may have heard about, but to hear from the perspective of the children who are denied opportunity to read these after they get a glimpse, like you hand them that banned, challenged, or restricted book, hopefully that's enlightening for the parents as well.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Please come back anytime. Well, Trish, I know you're in Los Angeles now. Come out for a tour. Come meet some of the people
Love to.
here.
Great
That would be
place,
fun.
Trish. I've been there.
I love to.
Often.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great
so
Thank you
much,
both.